Have you ever entered a bus and felt something wasn't right? Maybe it was the way the driver stared ahead, or how the passengers sat too quietly. No noise, no laughter, just silence. What if the bus you entered wasn't just taking you to your destination, but straight into a nightmare? Would you notice the danger? Would you scream? Or would it be too late? This is not just a story about Lagos buses. It's a warning. A true horror hidden in plain sight. Do not scroll out. You might learn one or two from this story.
Priska adjusted the strap of her brown leather handbag as she stepped out of her compound that morning. The metal gate closed behind her, echoing faintly in the still air. She paused and inhaling deeply. A mixture of smells filled her nose: roasted corn, frying akara, dust, and exhaust fumes. The sun had not fully risen, but Lagos was already alive. The city was like a restless giant that never truly slept. Hawkers were on the move, balancing trays of bread on their heads and shouting prices. Okada riders drove recklessly through traffic, their horns piercing through the morning calm. Yellow buses, dented and rusted from years of service, lined up impatiently with conductors screaming out destinations in raspy voices. Priska's pulse quickened as she checked her wristwatch. She was late. Her first serious job interview since graduating, and it was at a reputable company in Victoria Island. Missing it was not an option. Earlier that morning, her mother had prayed fervently over her. She could still feel the warmth of her mother's rough palms resting firmly on her head. "God will go with you, my daughter. No evil will come near you," her mother had whispered, her voice quivering with faith. Priska smiled softly. At 25, she was young, bright, and full of hope. Today was supposed to mark a turning point in her life. But life has a strange way of mixing hope with hidden danger. As she got to the main road, her eyes darted across the line of buses. She needed one heading to CMS. Suddenly, a yellow bus swerved in front of her with a screech, the tires scraping the tar. The conductor, tall and muscular with a face that looked hardened by Lagos struggles, leaned out and shouted, "CMS, KMS, KMS straight. Enter with your change, oh." Priska hesitated for a second. The bus looked almost full, and she didn't want to waste time waiting for another. She tightened her grip on her handbag and quickly climbed in. She didn't know she had just entered a one-chance bus. The first thing Priska noticed as the bus rode by was the silence. A Lagos bus was never silent. Normally, there would be noise everywhere. A preacher shouting about salvation, two passengers arguing about change, hawkers squeezing bottles of cold water and gala through the windows, or even loud laughter from strangers bonding over jokes. But this bus was quiet. Too quiet. Priska sat in the middle row, trying to settle her uneasy spirit. Her handbag sat on her lap, clutched tightly. To her left was a young man in a black hoodie. His phone screen was lit, but his fingers didn't move. He wasn't scrolling, typing, or even tapping. He just stared blankly at the screen, motionless. On her right sat an older woman in a faded Ankara wrapper. Her posture was stiff, her back ramrod straight. Her hands rested on her thighs, and her eyes stared firmly at the floor, refusing to blink or shift. Priska frowned, shifting slightly. At the front, next to the driver, was a man who kept turning his head in her direction. When his eyes met hers, he gave her a small, strange smile before quickly looking away. Priska's stomach tightened. The conductor didn't act like a typical Lagos conductor either. He didn't slam the door or bang it twice to signal movement. Instead, he shut it gently, almost carefully, before sitting near the entrance. He didn't shout for more passengers. He didn't argue with anyone. He just sat there, eyes fixed on everyone, especially her. Her palms grew sweaty. Something about the bus didn't feel right. Her heart started to beat faster. She couldn't explain why. But deep inside, she knew something was wrong. The bus picked up speed, roaring down the expressway. Priska tried to steady her nerves by looking out of the window, but as she studied the route, she noticed something alarming. They weren't heading toward Eco Bridge. "Excuse me," she said softly, leaning forward. trying to keep her voice calm. Isn't this bus supposed to be going through Eco Bridge? The driver said nothing. His face remained hard, his hands gripping the steering like iron. Instead, the young man in the black hoodie turned toward her, his movement deliberate. His lifeless eyes bore into hers, chilling her to the core. Priska's heartbeat stumbled. Suddenly, the woman beside her grabbed her wrist. Her grip was shockingly strong, almost unnatural, her nails biting into Priska's skin. Priska gasped, trying to pull her hand free. "Madam, what?" Before she could finish, the conductor slid out a knife from under his seat. The blade glinted in the dim light. He pointed it at her, his expression deadly. "Keep quiet," he whispered. "If you scream, you die." Priska froze. Her throat went dry, her heart thundering so loudly she thought the whole bus could hear it. It was true. She was in a one-chance bus. The bus turned sharply off the main road, bouncing roughly as it entered a narrow, dusty path lined with thick bushes and towering trees. The expressway disappeared behind them, swallowed by silence and shadows. Priska wanted to scream, but fear clogged her throat. Her eyes burned with unshed tears. The man at the front finally turned to face her properly. His voice was calm, almost polite as he said, "You are very lucky. We need only one person today. And the spirits chose you." Priska shook her head wildly, panic tightening her chest. "Please, please, I beg you. I'm going for a job interview. I don't have any money, but I will give you everything I have. Please don't hurt me." The man chuckled darkly. "We don't need your money, my dear. We need your life." Priska's vision blurred as fear swallowed her whole. Her body trembled uncontrollably. The older woman beside her, the one gripping her wrist, began to chant in a low, eerie tone. The words were strange, ancient, but they carried a weight that made the air grow heavy. It felt as though invisible smoke filled the bus, pressing down on Priska's chest, making it harder to breathe. Her horror deepened. This wasn't just robbery. It was ritual. The bus slowed as it approached an abandoned warehouse hidden deep inside the bush. The walls of the building were cracked and stained, the windows shattered. It looked like a place where secrets were buried. Priska's mind screamed, "If they take you inside, you're finished." Her body buzzed with adrenaline. She had to act. As the conductor reached for her to drag her out, Priska kicked his hand fiercely. The knife flew from his grip, clattering onto the bus floor. "Jesus!" she screamed, her voice breaking with desperation. "Help me!" The gang lunged toward her in unison, but panic fueled her strength. She bit the woman's arm savagely, tasting blood. She kicked the man in the hoodie squarely in the ribs, forcing him back. Her hands scrambled at the bus door. By some miracle, it wasn't locked properly. With one last push, the door burst open. Without hesitation, Priska jumped out. She hit the ground hard, pain shooting through her leg as rocks scraped her skin. But she didn't stop. She forced herself to her feet and bolted into the bush. Behind her, angry shouts erupted. Heavy footsteps thundered after her. Priska ran like her life depended on it because it did. Branches slashed her skin, stones tore her feet, but she didn't dare look back. "If you stop, you die." That single thought kept her legs moving.
Priska tore deeper into the forest, her lungs burning as she gasped for air. Her heart pounded so violently it felt like it would burst through her chest. Behind her, their voices rang out. "Catch her! Don't let her escape!" The sound of pursuit grew louder and closer. Priska's vision blurred with tears, but she pushed herself harder. The forest was thick, shadows swallowing her every step. Then, up ahead, she spotted a narrow stream. Without a second thought, she leaped into it, the cold water splashing over her body. She crouched low, crawling along the muddy bank, letting the sound of rushing water mask her movements. She pressed herself flat, chest heaving, mud smearing her clothes and face. For a terrifying moment, the footsteps drew nearer. She held her breath, her heart nearly exploding. Then they ran past. Priska's hands shook violently as she covered her mouth to muffle her sobs.
Tears spilled freely, mixing with mud. God, please, she whispered, her voice trembling. Don't let me die here. But her nightmare was far from being over. Priska stayed hidden in the stream until silence fell. Only then did she crawl out, shivering, her clothes heavy with water and mud. Every muscle ached, but she pushed herself forward. Deeper into the forest she went, not knowing where her steps led. The trees loomed above her, their branches blocking out the light. The silence of the forest was eerie, broken only by the distant cry of birds. Then she heard it. Twigs snapped. Her body froze. Her heart skipped a beat. From behind a tree, a tall man emerged. He carried an old hunting gun slung across his shoulder. His clothes were torn and scars marred his rugged face. His eyes were sharp and watchful. "What are you doing here?" he asked gruffly, his voice like gravel. Priska stumbled, nearly collapsing in front of him. "Please help me. They want to kill me. I entered a one-chance bus, they." The man raised his hand to silence her. "I know them." Priska's breath caught. You know them." He nodded slowly. "This forest belongs to them. They use it for rituals. Many people enter, but not all come out." Priska's blood ran cold. "Come," the man said firmly. "If they catch you again, you won't survive." The hunter led her through winding paths until they reached a small hut built of wood and palm fronds. Smoke drifted faintly from the roof. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of herbs and firewood. Priska slumped onto the ground, too exhausted to stand. The hunter handed her a calabash filled with water. Her hands trembled as she drank greedily, the liquid cooling her parched throat. "You're lucky," he said, watching her closely. "Not many escape once they enter that bus." Priska wiped her mouth, her voice breaking. "Why don't the police stop them? Why do they allow this?" The man chuckled bitterly. "Police. Some of them work with the gang. They take their share. That's why the one-chance people have lasted this long." Priska gasped, horror deepening. "So there's no hope." The man's eyes softened briefly. "There's always hope. But you must be clever. Stronger than your fear." That night, Priska lay awake on the rough floor. Every sound outside made her flinch. The image of the bus, the chanting, the knife haunted her mind. She wrapped her arms around herself, whispering prayers into the dark. But something deep inside her told her this nightmare was not over yet. At dawn, the hunter told Priska he would take her to the main road. "From there you can find your way home," he assured. Priska followed, her legs weak but her spirit clinging to hope. She thought of her mother, who must be worried sick by now. She thought of her dreams, the job interview she had already missed. But when they reached the edge of the forest, her heart dropped. 3 men stood waiting. Their faces were familiar. Too familiar. The men from the bus. Her breath hitched. The hunter suddenly shoved her forward roughly. "Here she is." Priska staggered in disbelief. "What? You were helping them all along." The hunter's face was cold again. "I told you. This forest belongs to them. No one leaves unless they decide." The men grabbed her, binding her wrists tightly. Priska screamed, kicked and fought, but their grip was iron. "Today you won't escape," one hissed. Priska's fragile hope shattered like glass. They dragged Priska into a clearing where a shrine stood. Red cloths fluttered eerily from the trees. Animal skulls littered the ground. At the center stood a giant wooden idol, its eyes carved wide and menacing. The woman in the Ankara wrapper was already there, chanting, her voice carrying through the clearing. Priska's knees weakened. Please don't kill me." The leader sneered. "Don't worry. We won't waste you. Your blood will feed the spirits. Your body will bring us wealth." He raised a knife, its blade catching the morning light. Priska shut her eyes, praying desperately. "God save me. Please save me." Then a gunshot cracked the air. The knife clattered to the ground. The leader screamed, clutching his bleeding arm. Priska's eyes snapped open. Police officers stormed the shrine, their guns raised. "Everybody down," one shouted. Chaos erupted. The gang scattered, but some fell under police bullets. The woman in the Ankara wrapper tried to flee but was captured. Priska collapsed to her knees, sobbing. She was alive. By some miracle, she was alive. At the police station, Priska gave her statement, her voice trembling as she recounted everything. The officers told her she was lucky. A farmer had heard her screams the previous day when she ran through the forest. He had reported suspicious movements, and the police had been watching the area since. Priska could hardly believe it. The faces of the passengers, the chants, the cold knife against her skin. It replayed in her mind like a nightmare on loop. When her mother finally arrived, Priska ran into her arms and wept. "My daughter," her mother cried. "I thought I had lost you." Priska clung to her. "Mama, God saved me. Only God." But deep in her heart, she knew the memory would never fade. She had entered a one-chance bus. She had stared death in the face. And somehow she had survived. Weeks later, Priska was walking to church one Sunday morning. Her spirit had begun to heal, but scars remained hidden in her heart. Then she froze. By the roadside, selling fruits, sat the hunter, the same man who had betrayed her. But he was different now. His once sharp eyes were blank. His movements were slow, clumsy. He mumbled to himself, laughing at nothing. Priska turned to a woman selling nearby. "Who is that man?" The woman shook her head pitifully. "Don't mind him. They say he went mad after police raided the forest shrine. He walks around saying spirits are chasing him." Priska stared, chills creeping down her spine. Their eyes met briefly. The hunter let out a hollow, eerie laugh. Priska shivered. Maybe it was justice. Maybe it was punishment. But one thing was certain. Some evils never go unpunished. Priska later got another job interview, and this time she went safely. Life slowly returned to normal, but the scars of that day never fully left her. Whenever she saw a yellow bus, she checked carefully before entering. She warned her friends, neighbors, and even strangers. "Be careful," she would say. "Not every bus is safe. Some roads hide death." And sometimes, late at night when she lay in bed, she could still hear the conductor's haunting call.